After months of anticipation and waves of beta testing, Apple has finally unveiled macOS Tahoe, also known as macOS 26. Marketed as a generational leap for Mac users, it introduces a striking new visual language, thoughtful tools for productivity, and, at long last, a feature Windows users have enjoyed for nearly a decade. The most immediate change is aesthetic. Apple calls it liquid glass, and it's unlike anything macOS has offered before. Windows, menus, and panels now ripple with refractive effects that feel alive, shifting as you move them across the screen. The dock and menu bar adopt customizable transparency, helping reduce visual clutter and placing your focus firmly on the task at hand. It's a design cue borrowed from iOS and iPadOS, but reimagined for the desktop, creating an immersive sense of depth. Of course, such bold design can sometimes blur legibility, and early testers noticed readability issues in dense workspaces. Apple has tuned the rendering considerably since beta, but the balance between beauty and clarity is still evolving. Beyond aesthetics, macOS Tahoe is about catching up in practical ways. For years, Mac users frustrated by the lack of clipboard history had to rely on third-party apps. That changes now. With Tahoe, Apple integrates a native clipboard manager, accessible via Spotlight with a simple CMD4. Copy a link, a snippet of text, or even a sensitive number, and you can call it back hours later without juggling separate apps. It may sound minor, but it transforms workflows, and it addresses one of the longest-standing productivity gaps on macOS. The catch? Apple limits clipboard retention to 8 hours, after which all entries vanish automatically. While this is shorter than the weeks or months offered by tools like Paste, the trade-off is intentional. Apple is signaling that privacy and data security remain paramount. Sensitive content isn't left lingering indefinitely, and the system self-cleans to protect users from accidental exposure. Spotlight itself feels reborn. It's no longer just a search box for files and apps. With quick actions, you can trigger shortcuts and assign abbreviations. Type ST and a timer begins instantly. Competing utilities like Alfred and Raycast have thrived by offering this kind of power. Apple's move shows it finally recognizes Spotlight's potential as more than a background tool. Communication, too, takes a step forward. The new phone app lets your Mac handle calls directly, provided your iPhone is nearby. Answering, dialing, and syncing are seamless when it works. Although some early glitches, such as an unresponsive hang up button, remind us that first-release software often comes with rough edges. Still, the promise of fluid continuity between devices is undeniable, and Apple is clearly expanding its ecosystem to make the Mac feel like an even more natural extension of the iPhone. Another subtle but meaningful update is the arrival of live activities on the menu bar. Imagine tracking your Uber driver or a food delivery without leaving your workspace. These small, real-time windows add dynamism to a desktop environment that has historically prized stillness. It's Apple's way of acknowledging that Macs aren't just for static documents or coding sessions. They're increasingly hubs of daily life, where ongoing processes deserve visibility. Of course, the centerpiece of this release isn't just liquid glass or Spotlight's evolution. It's the realization that macOS is willing to adopt features long considered overdue. Clipboard history might feel basic to Windows users, who've had it since 2018. But on the Mac it represents a cultural shift. Apple has always prioritized clean, minimal systems, often resisting utility features that seemed messy or prone to misuse. By integrating clipboard history in 2025, Apple is admitting that simplicity alone isn't enough. Users demand tools that genuinely reduce friction. But Apple being Apple, it implements the feature in a way that doubles as a statement of values. 8 hours of memory, auto wipe for security, and system-level integration rather than endless customization. It's the Apple philosophy: less flexibility, but more polish and safety. macOS Tahoe is also a reminder of Apple's design ethos, an ethos that thrives on spectacle. The liquid glass look may divide opinion, yet it unmistakably signals that this isn't a minor patch. It's a reinvention. By refracting light through windows, by letting transparency breathe across the interface, Apple wants you to feel that your Mac is alive, responsive, and contemporary. In many ways, it's as much about identity as it is about usability. Still, Apple tempers excitement with caution. The company itself recommends waiting a few days before upgrading, allowing early bugs to surface and app developers to patch compatibility. It's a pragmatic warning, underscoring that even the most refined operating system launches can stumble out of the gate. Taken together, macOS Tahoe is both a spectacle and a concession. It dazzles with design, while quietly admitting that practicality matters just as much. Clipboard history, phone integration, live activities, and revamped Spotlight may not generate the same headlines as liquid glass, but they are the changes that will define daily use. They are the features that make the Mac feel less rigid, more adaptable, and more human. For users who've waited years for these tools, Tahoe is the version that finally acknowledges their needs. It's not flawless. Some will balk at the 8-hour clipboard limit, others at the shimmering translucency of Windows. But in the broader arc of macOS, Tahoe represents a willingness to evolve without abandoning the values that make a Mac, a Mac. And that might be the real story here. Not just the glassy visuals or the long-delayed clipboard, but the sense that Apple is listening, adapting, and reshaping macOS into something both familiar and freshly ambitious.